One. Hey guys, and welcome to Your Adventure Podcast. And this is your host, as always, Dustin Emery. And today's guest is coming from Southern California, Fitzroy House. Love the name. We'll talk about that. Fitzroy House works in insurance and finance. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Not bad. I appreciate your patience working through all the technological difficulties.
I hear you. Not a problem.
One thing I'm definitely not. I don't think I'm very tech savvy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff I just gotta learn on the fly and figure it out.
I gotcha.
So I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you. I'm glad we connected because Ashley actually. Yeah. So.
Yes.
I know she had messaged me that she was excited that you were gonna be on actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ashley is awesome.
Yeah. She was great. She was a great episode. The reason. It might be a dumb reason, but the reason I like your name, especially the last name, House.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have ever watched the MD medical drama House. That's such a great show. It's like one of my favorite shows of all time. That's when I saw your last name, I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. Just without the Vicodin, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And probably the attitude, the narcissism, everything else that he has going on with him. Yeah.
Yes. It's funny because I was a radiology major, so
Okay.
in like bio and lab and stuff like that, I remember a bunch of people got me a cane and.
Oh wow, they went on. Okay, so this isn't the first you've heard.
Yeah, I've heard it
okay.
many times. Yes.
Wow. Did you actually take that stuff, or they just joking around? Like you didn't actually take it, did you?
Take the cane?
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, you did.
Cane?
Oh,
yeah,
you went all out. Then. Okay.
Yeah, I would come into class with the cane with the limp.
Nice. Man, it's real acting right there.
Exactly. I mean, you gotta live up to the name sometimes, you know.
I feel it. Yeah. Well, I was excited about the name, so I knew I wanted to put that out there. But okay. Well, we'll get to some of the things I talked about before the podcast was insurance and finance stuff that I had just learned that I didn't know exists. But we'll dial it back a little bit. I know you said you're 39, right?
Say that again.
You're 39, right? Is that
yes,
what I remember?
39.
You don't look 39.
I'm
man.
an old man.
You don't look 39.
Well, how old do I look?
I would say, honestly, like my age, like 30, 32. I'm 30.
Okay.
So, I don't know. You don't look 39, man.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
I think nowadays, I feel like we're all looking younger as we age. No?
Yeah.
Nowadays?
Yeah. We're discovering self-care, lotion. So.
Lotion, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
All right. Well, so I guess just think back to, that high school age, middle school age to where you thought, or I guess maybe the first question from probably a teacher comes to mind where like, like what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are you thinking about? Did you already have maybe like a vision that you thought of or, where are you at that point?
Man. Early high school. So at that point, I really didn't know. I didn't have an idea what I wanted to do. I remember when I was like maybe middle school-ish or elementary school, I always told my parents I wanted to like own some kind of store. Like I wanted to own like a toy store or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to have something for myself. But like when I got to high school, I don't really know. I was I had like a military kind of path that I was following.
Okay.
So I did like the ROTC and stuff like that, but I just didn't really go that route at the end of the day.
Which, can you choose a branch at that age? Like what you
Yeah, you can choose your branch.
What branch
Yeah.
did you look at?
So when I was an Army ROTC,
Okay.
and there was a bunch of recruiters they're always looking at ROTC people, so every branch is trying to get you to sign up.
Of course.
But I was looking mostly at the Air Force, which they call the Chair Force because
Why is that?
it's they have well, at least at the time, I'm not sure if that's the case now, but they had the shortest boot camp time.
Oh.
Yeah, and on average, I think they earn more pay wise. So
that I know for sure,
yeah.
Especially nowadays with all their technology. I mean, some people don't even fly anymore.
Exactly.
You're doing it from a room. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was looking into the Air Force, so I did the whole ROTC stuff, and then I just didn't. I mean, the reason I didn't go that route is a whole story. I went to MEPS, I signed in, I did every.
One sec.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Hold on. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So I went to MEPS. I swore in. I did all that. So well, I did everything but swear in. My recruiter bounced on me. I don't know where he went. He was like, "Wait right here. They're gonna go sign. Everyone's gonna swear in."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was waiting for him to come back. Everyone went in the room and swore in, and he just left me. I had to find my own way home and whatnot, and so I just didn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But as far as what I wanted to do around that time, I didn't really have an idea where I wanted to go. But I know I wanted to do something that I owned.
Hmm. You still kind of have that vision now of something you own?
I do, yes.
Not a toy store though, I'm assuming. Like you said,
no longer a toy store.
I was gonna
no.
say, are there toy stores anymore?
Right? Yeah. People play with toys?
I
guess kids do.
I think the last toy store went out of business in 2020. Toys R Us.
Toys R Us.
I think they're online now. That's it.
Which is insane to think about. Yeah.
Oh, that they're online, or the fact that they're still exist?
The fact that they're gone. Well, I guess they still exist in a
online
sense,
form.
online. Yeah. I grew up in New York City, and I remember love going to FAO Schwartz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you are familiar with
I've never heard of that.
FAO Schwartz. Have you ever seen Home Alone 2?
Yeah, that's the one he's in New York, right?
In New York. Yep,
Okay.
that big toy store.
Oh, is that it?
That's it, yeah. And it's just a building, it's like 7 floors or something of just toys.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to love going there at FAO Schwartz, but yeah, I mean that is gone, and that was like a pillar in the toy community, and now they're gone, so it's like toys, you're right, it's not a thriving business anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Just a little tidbit here. Due to technological difficulties, when I put my hand up, we're gonna stop and then start again because now I see what Anchor's doing with me right now.
Okay, no problem.
Well, we're already into it, so we'll stay with it.
Okay, cool.
Just to let you know.
Not a problem.
Okay, so after high school, you decided to not follow, the military route. So, like, did you go to college now, or did you just like take time off and do something else?
I did go to college. I went to college. I was a radiology major, and I went into radiology because someone said they get paid well. So I did that. But then I remember speaking to some people in the field, and none of them were really happy. It was a lot of like 3 a.m. starting shifts. There's like one director of radiology, and there's no promotions other than that, and that job
Really?
people hang on to forever, like till they die, essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like decent money right out of college, but that's all you make until hopefully you get to director of radiology, and that's it. So I was like,
no growth then.
No growth.
At least you realize that. I mean, the no growth aspect.
Right.
Even if you were into radiology, were you into it at all besides the money factor?
It was interesting, but it wasn't a passion, I guess. Yeah. It's fun. Like, I guess growing up, I was always like a natural saver. So finances, I guess, come really easy to me. It's funny, I was telling a buddy recently, where like, what's your passion? And I think for me, it really sums it up with finance and fighting games. Like, those are the
fighting games?
Fighting games.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Do you play any fighting games?
I mean, the ones I play now for sure is like Injustice. I thought those were great, especially when it comes to like new age fighting games, because they don't have as many like that.
Right.
But the old fighting games that like me and my brothers played were Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
That's Street Fighter.
Those are the two. I mean, I feel like everyone knows those.
Yeah, they're huge franchises.
They're classics.
Yeah, but Injustice, man, who do you main in Injustice? I'm curious.
Nightwing.
Okay.
I like him.
Very nice, very nice.
I like him. Yeah, I think he's underrated, unfortunately. I think he needs his own movie if they can make it right.
A Nightwing movie?
Yeah.
Okay. With Dick Grayson?
I don't know. I mean, Yeah, it's hard to say. Just because I know that Nightwing comes like in different versions in the comic books.
So let me ask you this: would you,
Sorry,
if there,
you're good. And then when I do this, then you can go.
okay.
Alright, you're good.
So let me ask you this: if they were to do a Nightwing movie, do you think it would be better if they introduce him first in a Batman movie and then he gets a spin-off, or do you just want to jump in Nightwing?
I would go with your first one.
Okay.
Yeah, introduce him. Um, the only problem I guess I would have with introducing him is like when they've done that in the past with other movies, the actor that they picked, who maybe was a good choice or a bad choice, they never come back for like the actual movie. So now it's like you saw them as this, and now you get this. So like I guess I would have to say it'd have to be the actor's already on board for like the movie, whoever it is.
Right.
You know, if they introduce them, especially if it's something super short, like a little cameo, they don't really go more into it. But yeah, I'd like to see a movie.
Yeah, because I think the last time, or maybe it might be the only time we saw Dick Grayson was Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Batman
Yeah.
Forever?
Yeah. That and then there's I don't know if you watch HBO Max at all, but they have like a ton of Batman stuff on there.
Yes.
And there was one where Nightwing shows up, and I believe the movie that they're doing is Batman and Harley Quinn, and he shows up in that one.
Oh, the animated movie.
Yeah, animated. Yes.
Yes.
Animated
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah. But yeah, Nightwing would be cool, and that's cool that you play Injustice.
Yeah, my middle brother got me into those actually. I played the first one, and I was like, okay, this is okay. And then he started playing, and then we started playing together, and then it just went more and more. And then obviously Injustice 2 came out.
Yeah.
And so that kind of upped it up. But that's probably the last one I would assume for that franchise. I don't think
It's the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
They haven't made another one. But yeah. So I've always loved those two things, and I've always kind of wanted to share those things somehow. So, being financially responsible and fighting games don't really go together, I guess. So, but I always try to find a way where I can kind of use those things as an outlet, I guess.
Okay, so let's talk about your finance part that you just mentioned. So obviously we'll save the fighting games for later because I know you have a website for stuff kind of like that. I know your website's mixed though. Obviously, I saw that
It is.
it has your finance and it has basically the other part like the comics and like nerdy part of it.
Right.
But let's talk about the finance. So how did you get into insurance and finance?
So, like I said, I was always like a natural saver. I was always kind of, had the mindset of the future, I guess, money wise, but on a really small scale. But so even in middle school, high school, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I moved to California that I got into the industry.
Oh, so where are you originally from?
The East Coast.
Okay.
So all up and down the East Coast. I was born in New York, and then we moved a lot. We moved to out of the country for a little bit, came back, and then I eventually came over to California.
Okay.
And I was just looking for a job. I was just looking for anything, and then I went to what is it called? Like a job fair, I guess.
Okay.
And I was just walking down all the rows, giving my resume out, and then there was a all finance like lane, I guess, and I was just like, oh, I'm not going to do anything here. Let me just hurry down here, and then I'll get to another row and start
Someone else.
applying.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just walking down, and all of a sudden, a guy is like, "Hey, you have a resume, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a resume." He's like, "Give me a resume." So I gave it to him, and he gave me a call, and then that's how I got into it.
Okay. So all right. So what? How old were you when you started finance then? I guess in that moment, if you're still working for that person.
Yeah, I was like, man, mid-20s maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got, if it's the same company, obviously, and we won't name any names, but that sounds what 10, 12 years maybe now.
Well, it was very on and off at first,
Okay.
and I think the main reason why was just because of I guess it was a confidence thing, because a lot of people, I guess, didn't really want to take financial advice from someone younger than them.
Ah. Okay.
So I think my age was really, at least in my own head, was a big deterrent as to getting successful.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, just because it seems like for sure nowadays every generation thinks that what they did was the right way to do it, and now like, we're doing it a different way, and they don't understand. So like to your point, excuse me. I'm sure you had a lot of people obviously in the older age range. So yeah, like you said, they're probably like, well, what do you know? I've lived longer. I should know more. Right?
Exactly.
And that's just a fallacy for that, but it's human nature, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like, or someone who's more affluent. It's like, I made more money than you. How are you gonna tell me how to? You know what I mean? But I guess you just really have to get in the mindset that, if you're falling off a building and Superman comes to save you, doesn't matter how old Superman is. Like, you just want to just help me, But yeah, that was a really big deterrent. So I was really on and off at the beginning. So, but eventually I found that I really liked it. I didn't think that I would, but yeah, finances, I like it.
This may be a dumb question, but I am just curious. Like, is there a lot of math involved that you have to do, like, on paper? I only ask that because, like, when I started going to school for psychology, I had to take math. I had to take statistics. But that was, and I hate math. But that was honestly the easiest math class I had ever taken, because their math just uses the Excel spreadsheet. As long as you know all the formulas and you type them in, you're good. And I was like, man, where was this in high school?
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, I wish I could use this. So that's why I asked that question.
I see. It's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of stuff that you just kind of plug in, and then it gives you the number, so you don't really have to
do as much.
Exactly.
Okay.
You don't have to be a mathematician, I guess. So it's not that difficult in that aspect.
And it's funny because I think nowadays less people are better at math than I think before.
You think so?
I think, but I think there's also like a positive. It's just because there's so many tools
Technology.
now
Yes.
at our fingertips that like we don't even have to think about math anymore. Like, I have a grandpa who is just a whiz in math, like, and he does everything in his head, like pretty much anything.
Wow.
And me and my brothers, there's no way we can't do that. Like, I can't. Like, I got to use some type of technology to help me out for sure. So I think it's like it's a trade-off. I guess,
And I mean, have you ever seen those? They'll have like TikTok videos or Instagram videos where you remember doing math one way, like long division or multiplication, and then now they're doing multiplication a completely different way, where it's like you add these numbers and then you cross multiply, or like ways that they don't do it the way we normally did, where you multiply and then you add the zero and then multiply across.
Some of those videos I've noticed, like they've almost even kind of sidestepped a few steps that we normally would have done.
Yes.
And they've gotten to the answer like quicker. Weirdly.
Yeah.
As long as it's right, hey,
as long as it's right, yeah. And if it holds true with any problem, but yeah, I guess math there's definitely been a different approach to doing math, I guess, for whatever reason. But as long as it's right, But to answer your question, that's a long way of saying no. You don't have to you don't have to know a lot of math.
Well, that's good. At least for most people that listening to this, they at least know if you're into finance, you can do it.
You can
if
do
you're
it.
not good at math.
Yeah, if you're not good at math. I mean, I feel like the hardest part is the hardest part of everything, which is attention. I think attention is the hardest part. Because whether you're trying to sell a book or you're trying to help your daughter sell Girl Scout cookies or you're trying to get into politics, whatever it is, you need an audience to tell people that, to say, hey, this is my message, this is the help I need, or whatever the case may be.
So you're saying it's kind of like all in the details that you put out? Was that kind of what you mean, or no?
I mean, the bigger the pool of people that you can reach out to, I think is the easier you're going to be able to get success.
Okay.
So for your podcast, the more people that you can say, hey, check out my podcast, is the more you're going to be successful. The more people you can say, hey, vote for me in the upcoming election, the easier you're going to have attaining success. And I think that's the same way in finance. The more people that you can speak to say, hey, I can help you with your finances in this area or that, is the more successful you'll be. So it isn't being good at math, or it isn't being a whiz at anything really. It's how many people you can get to.
So, when you're talking about that, it makes me think, since you've been doing this for so long, do you think this generation's, and I guess even the generation after that really, the younger one, do you think we're more financially literate now than we were back then, or do you think it's worse?
I don't know, because I don't know what we were like back then. You know what I mean? I think it's apples and oranges, because in the past, I think things were, I don't want to say easier, but I think
they were cheaper.
They were cheaper, yes.
They were cheaper.
You could live off of one income. It could be like a family with just one income.
Yeah.
The other adult could stay at home. So I think it was just things are just more accessible, I guess. I mean, the problems just change from time to time.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's probably just as difficult, but just different problems.
Okay.
So because of that, though, I don't know if people were just better with finances in the past, or they just made so much money that it didn't matter compared to what they had to spend.
Well, yeah, that actually makes sense, mainly because and I'll just use this as an example. Watching like a historical movie, maybe about like a bank robbery or something, right?
Okay.
At the very, yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, but it'll make sense when I get to the end. Like at the end, it'll say that they stole, say, $500,000, and this was like in the 1900s, right?
Okay.
And then you fast forward to our year, and they always say that 500,000 would be like 50 million nowadays or something.
Right.
So is that kind of what you mean? Like, just the times are different, so obviously money has different values now that the years have gone on.
Right, and also I think maybe, and this is just my guess, but maybe you needed to exercise less financial responsibility in the past because you had a job, typically you stayed at that job for 20, 30 years, you retired with a pension, and you already owned your house at that point, probably by the time you retired. So you didn't really have to pack away as much money as you probably have to do now to retire.
So you know that saying when it talks about like a rainy day savings account?
Yes.
So I remember growing up, I think my grandpa and my grandma would always tell me like, oh, you want that when you get older, and you want at least like $1,000. But as I got older, still remembering, excuse me, still remembering that rule. Nowadays, I would say it's got to be like 5,000, not 1,000.
In your savings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000 for me as like a rainy day savings account that my grandpa would call. 1,000's not going that far now.
I mean, most experts in the field will say a really safe savings account would be 3 months worth of your expenses. Especially, I mean, we all felt 2020, right? Yeah. Where you're out of work, and I mean, even people that had 3 months worth of savings and they lost their job, they were still in trouble. But most people would say, like, or in the industry, they would say, have at least 3 months. If you lost your job now, you could still survive with 3 months.
one thing I think about financially for people nowadays is even if they have a really great job, right, and they say they're pulling in 75 to 100,000 a year. Uh, I think nowadays the problem is people overspend what they actually make.
Absolutely.
Then and like because like 75,000, 100 to 100,000 a year, that's pretty good. Like you can live a pretty casual good lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
As long as you like budget correctly, you don't like overspend, like I just mentioned. But nowadays it seems like everyone does that, so that 100,000 is now, you got I'm only making really like 30,000 a year because I spent all the other stuff on cars, houses, etc.
Anything.
Well above my means.
Oh, absolutely. Credit card debt is a big thing. Um, and then you just have, like you said, you just have bigger bills. So when people have, sometimes I'll sit down with someone and they're making a lot of money and they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Really?
Because yeah,
Wow.
because you just make more money and you just get bigger bills. I can just get a better car with a higher payment. I can just move into a better house with a higher rent. I can just get X, Y, and Z, and then by the time the the check is finished, you're done. You don't have any more money.
Hmm. What do you think is like your number one financial question that you get asked the most? And if you can, I guess since you deal with all ages, like, is there one that someone always asks, like if they're this age, like older, like maybe closer to retirement, and then if you have young individuals maybe who are 30 or younger, do they have a different financial question for you?
Uh, Financial question. Well, because the bread and butter of what I do is insurance,
Mm-hmm.
it's typically how much insurance do I need.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I remember researching when I kind of first started, um, and a lot of people in the industry would say 10 times your income is what you should get for that's how much insurance that you would need. But I don't really like that idea
That's
because
too low or too high?
it can be both.
Hmm.
I guess it depends. But what I like to do is kind of go through a questionnaire and then say, so for example, if you were, let's say I'm sitting down with a couple, if you were to, Mr. Client, if you were to die today, would you want the insurance to cover all your debt, half the debt, some of the debt, or none of the debt? I'd be like, I don't want my wife to pay for that, so I want the insurance to cover it. All right, great. What about um, the mortgage? The do you want the insurance to pay for all of it, some of it, none of it? Um, College for your children, all of it? Do you want them to do some of that? And then I just get the number based on.
So all that's actually considered a debt in insurance terms? Because you mentioned like college, house, like that. So that's considered debt.
No, 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 no. I wouldn't consider that debt. But what I'm saying is, what the benefit, the death benefit is. So if you were to pass,
Mm-hmm.
how much money do I need to leave to my family, essentially?
Okay, to cover all those. Okay.
Right. So some people will just say, "Oh, you make 100,000 per year, just that times 10."
Okay. Wow.
But I don't really like that mindset. So I like to kind of go through what it is, what's important to the client, and then whatever the total number is, that's the amount of insurance you need.
Okay. So explain life insurance then for me. Just like I mentioned before, I just now learned this that you can actually take that money out before you're dead. So
Yes.
and I feel like a lot of people probably don't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. So I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but just
Yeah.
essentially, there's an old kind and a new kind. The old kind is you get the insurance. When you die, your family or whoever your beneficiary is
Mhm.
gets the money that the policy provides. The newer kind is you you get the insurance. If you die, your beneficiaries still receive that money, but there's a cash component to it. So as you're paying your premiums, a portion of that money is mirroring the market.
Okay.
So a lot of people who lost their money like in 2008 love, yeah, love this kind of product because it will go up with the market, but it has a cap. So if the market goes up, let's say 13%,
Mhm.
you can get up to, it's typically 10% is the ceiling.
So is this more like, so this is, the way it sounds is this is like a stock almost, like it's going up with the economy.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Right. However, if the stock goes down, there's a floor. So it's typically 0 to 1%, depending on the company you go with. So when the market goes down, you never lose money. And then the market goes up, you gain money again.
Okay.
So that kind of cash component, you're able to take money out and use it. So if you have a huge goal, like you want to send the kids to college, you want to buy a house, whatever the case may be, you can kind of use that to get to that financial goal. And if you were to pass, your beneficiaries still get the death benefit plus whatever is generated from the cash component.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. That's why I mentioned stock, because it sounds like a stock, obviously, but it's it's not your typical stock that people think of. Obviously.
Right. So it's not in the stock. It's not in the market, but it mirrors the market.
It's basically earning like interest, maybe slash dividends, if that's how we really kind of want to base it on.
Yeah.
For everyone, to make it easier, I guess.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. They just think that, hey, I'm paying into this thing that I'll never see. Yeah. Like I die and then someone else gets the money.
Everyone else gets the party. Yeah. And that's I feel like that's probably what most people would say, just because they're like, yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's not the case at all. You can absolutely benefit from life insurance while you're alive.
So really, because I was gonna ask you earlier, but now it kind of sounds like I don't need to. But really, it doesn't matter what your age is, then, right? With life insurance, it's mainly just what do you want to do with that money? Like, how much do you want to cover? So basically, that doesn't matter, or that's what matters, not like the age of life insurance, right? For like how old you are when you get it. That doesn't matter.
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
So what I mean by that is, no matter what the age, I think everyone should have a life insurance policy, and everyone should call me to get it. But
how old would you recommend someone to actually get it?
As young as possible.
Really?
Because the longer that you have something like that is the more, I mean, you've heard the whole compound interest thing, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. So the younger that you have a policy, is the more money that you can have during retirement. And also, when you sign up for it, it's the lower amount that you'll pay per month, because there is a health component to life insurance. So you can be denied life insurance depending on your age, your weight, stuff like that. So the younger you are is the lower the payment, and the more time you have to gain interest on the money. So if someone gets a life insurance policy at like 15, let's say, by the time they're ready to retire, they're good.
Excuse me. Oh. So, okay, so in today's society, since you mentioned that the health aspect to it, seems like for a lot of us we're going in the opposite direction when it comes to health. In some people, I only mention that mainly because you talked about the health aspect of this life insurance. So, are today's rates maybe higher because of that? Because now, I mean, nowadays you can see, a really obese 15-year-old. So like, in that long term, they don't take care of themselves, they might not live as long.
I think personally, I don't have a big enough sample size to say. I mean, I've had people get denied for a couple different reasons. I know, well, health is definitely one. One thing that I didn't know until it happened to me was DUIs. If you have,
really?
Yeah, if if you have like two or more, sometimes depending on the company, if you have one, uh, they won't allow you to get life insurance. Not that type of life insurance anyway.
Okay.
So the health thing, it wouldn't be fair for me to say if it's better or worse, if people are getting better or worse in that area. But from what I've seen, I haven't really had a lot of problems with that. But like I said, the DUI stuff, I did.
At DUI, is that mainly because they would associate DUI with like being an alcoholic? Or
Recklessness.
Reckless. Okay.
Yeah. They don't
Basically,
want
like the basically the value of your life.
right. They don't want you to pay $100 in a month, and then you die, and then they gotta pay out $1.5 million.
Because you were dumb. Yeah. I get that. Well, yeah. I mean, even though these like insurances are helping people in the long run, it's still business. So yeah.
They still want to make money.
They still want to make money. I understand that.
And I mean, and they want to pay out too, because if you, from my understanding of it is, if you're earning interest on it, they're probably earning a piece of that interest too. So they want you to have the policy for a long time, be able to take money out, and then when you finally pass, they're not trying to scum you out of the money, but they want it to last long enough for them to make money and for you to make money.
See, I like that you said that, mainly because I feel like a lot of people are, and it happens in my field too with therapy. I feel like a lot of people are hesitant about insurance companies because, mainly like you said, people are like, no, they just want my money. Like it doesn't matter. They don't really want to pay out. But now that you mention it, if you're making money, they're making money. So that's a positive.
Right.
For them. And the only reason I mentioned that was just because, like in therapy, I have the same thing when it comes to people being hesitant to reach out for help or therapy. Just because the word that no one likes to use is the fact that some people, when you tell people that you're going to therapy, they think something really bad is wrong with you or you're crazy, and that might not really be the case.
Right.
You know, there's rare instances where that is the case, but for the majority, no.
Yeah, I think everyone can benefit from therapy, and I think it has a bad stigma. I have a question for you.
Okay.
It may or may not be controversial, but
it's okay.
how many black people have you encountered that sign up for therapy? Would you say it's lower than any other demographic? Is it just as much as any other demographic, or higher than other demographics?
So I think it's lower, for sure, than most of the other demographics. I would say definitely it's it's in line with basically illegal immigrants in the country.
Oh,
right?
really? Okay.
I think it's in par with that. Mainly, I think, and I've talked to some of those people, illegal immigrants, but and for them, when they talk about it, most of the reason, excuse me, most of the reason for them is just because they don't want to get found out and get in trouble. Which, okay, I can understand that. However, to your question, I think that percentage is rising though when it comes to the black community, but it's definitely on the lower end for sure. Unfortunately, if anything, yeah, it's definitely our white demographic for sure. I would say most of them, and I think across the board, I think our biggest problem a lot in therapy for any demographic is mainly depression. That's probably our biggest thing nowadays.
Really?
Yeah, and I think I don't have all the stats in my head right now, but I think our biggest problem when it comes to all demographics with the depression aspect is just because of social media. Like I hear that like almost all the time.
Really? So you hear like what people are comparing their self to other people on social media, and that's causing depression?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you really look at social media, you know, you see 1% of a person's life, really.
Oh yeah, that's not their real life.
Yeah, it's not their real life. It's like their best moment in that second, really.
Right.
I guess, you know, no one's really posting sad moments or when they're really down. Some people do, but across the board, it's low spectrum,
Right.
percentage wise. And yeah, that's I think our biggest problem that we see the most is depression due to like social media exposure and just having it, especially for people who are now the younger generation, like I would say 25 and younger.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm 30, but I didn't grow up with social media. And for yourself, you didn't have social media either. I think the first social media platform I remember was MySpace.
MySpace.
I don't even remember how old I was when that came out.
My top 8.
I don't even remember how old I was when that came out. But I never even got it, even when it did come out. And I never got onto Facebook when that first came out.
Okay.
But yeah, I think our biggest thing is always the social media thing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Even though social media has its pros, especially when it comes to like building your brand and getting a business out there, because everyone's on social media. I mean, I see so many just odd businesses that I would never imagine they would have like an Instagram or a TikTok or like social media, and then they do, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess, makes sense. Even though it's like the oddest business that I would never think of.
Or the most established. Like as soon as Coca-Cola has a TikTok, you probably should be looking into.
Do they really? I mean, I'm sure they do.
I mean, I don't know them in particular, but I'm pretty sure they have like a Twitter and an Instagram and stuff like that. Wendy's Twitter is amazing, by the way, if you're not following Wendy's Twitter or Arby's Twitter.
I've just seen some of their tweets just like in like social media posts, and people just kind of like saying like Wendy's said something really funny or whatever. I have seen those. I don't have Twitter though.
I'm really on Twitter myself, but when these companies have people who can research and look into things and see whether or not this is going to be a pro for them to spend money on or a con, because it's not just the owner of Wendy's tweeting, right? They probably pay someone to do that.
Oh yeah. You think the owner's sitting down doing
that? Yeah, exactly. So if they think this is a good enough idea to do it, if someone as established as Wendy's, if you're just, Joe Schmo business, it's probably a good idea to look into it.
Yeah, 100%. And nowadays, just because I've run into him, because my other brother, he has a business, a coffee business, and for I would say 6 months to a year, he did it where he hired basically not human resources, but like a social networking like manager.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
the right
correct term. But yeah, for about 6 months to a year, he hired a person, and they basically did like all the social media work, like posts, reels, videos, all this. But it was crazy, like how much money that person was making just like doing that.
Oh, really?
It was just wild.
I believe it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, the Joe Schmo, like my brother's business is successful, but it's definitely on like the small business scale compared to everyone else. But even for him, he saw the benefit,
Yeah. So I hear you on that, and as far as the business aspect of social media, but I'm surprised that there are so many people getting depressed on social media, because I always felt like growing up, for me, I never really like had a squad. Like I never really had I never really fit into a lot of different groups, because I was always too something else for that group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, but with social media, you can find those.
You can find your people.
You can find your people.
Yeah,
so I would figure that, hey, if you're depressed at school, you can go home and chill with your people there. Or if you don't have friends, then you can have friends online. But it's funny that the numbers show an opposite thing.
I think the biggest thing for that is the comment section. I always try to tell basically everyone, like,
Don't read it.
Yeah, don't read it. Like, you know, like, because the good people who like your stuff and whatever, like, yeah, like you said, you'll find your people for sure. But that's gonna be such a small percentage compared to like, I guess, the mob, whatever you want to call it. The comment section, you're gonna have, you know, all the good ones that like you and they're your people, and then the rest are just gonna be pure
jabronis.
Yeah, pure garbage. So, you know, if you can, just don't even look at the comment section. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
You know, try to avoid it as much as possible, because I think that's usually the biggest thing. Is once people start reading those, like, you most of the time they automatically just boom, just like plummet, because most of the stuff is none of it's ever good.
It's negative, yeah.
And it's funny too, because you know, all these like creators on social media and some of the people that I have had in therapy, is just like they're doing so well, right? They're and everyone loves them, and their comment section is good, and then they make like one little mistake, whatever it could be.
They jump on them.
Yeah. Oh, and like everyone that loved them yesterday, like they all hate them now, and like that person's life is pretty much over, and it's just like whoa, like it's just crazy to see that. Social media is a monster sometimes.
Yeah.
And a good tool to
It's
use
good.
as well.
Yeah, it's good and bad. Like most things, it's good and bad.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see like the studies that they're now doing on social media. I want to see what those stats and like answers look like 25 years from now. When they have like all this data to pull, I really want to see it all.
Like what it's like growing up with social media, because like you said, going to school and whatnot, I never had social media or just the internet in general. So.
Oh yeah, like your girlfriend, wife?
Yeah, my wife.
Okay, all right. Hey, I just want to know. I was a girlfriend, wife, one of those. Excuse me. The only reason I mentioned her was, oh man. Now that I was trying to figure out girlfriend wife thing, now I lost the thought.
We were talking about.
Yeah. She said that she had dial-up.
Dial-up.
You know, yeah. I'll admit, I think I only had dial-up for like 2 to 3 years, maybe.
Okay.
When I was, that was like definitely my brother's thing for sure. But I do remember him like talking about it. I remember like seeing it for a few years, and it was like, yeah, you can't do this while they do this because it's not gonna work.
You get kicked off because someone's on the phone, or man, I remember the first time I heard of my cousin had a cable modem. I was like, what is a cable modem? He was like, yo.
Honestly, I don't know what that is either. What is it? She saw my face. She saw my face. My eyes went. I felt my eyes go up. I was like, wait, what is that? So I'm gonna have to ask
cable modem. So you would have to dial up. You'd use the dial up, and you remember that noise whenever you're signing on.
Mm.
So my cousin was like, yo, Fitz, you're gonna have to come over because I got a cable modem. I was like, what is a cable modem? Fitz, I am always online. Get out of here. What do you mean always online? You don't have to turn it on? You don't have to turn it back off? No, I'm just always online. Yo.
Oh man, what was even on the internet back then? I don't remember.
I mean, there was. I mean, you would go.
It wasn't a lot, but
you'd go to chat rooms. You would go. There's AIM. You just talk to people. You would play RuneScape.
I do remember RuneScape.
Oh man.
I had to. If my mom's listening, she knows now. But I remember I had to play that game on the download and I had to like hide it in the internet just because she was like, no, you can't play those online games. I'm like, I don't know, but it was a thing to do.
Man, I remember my cousin used to love RuneScape. He used to go to the library and I would bring him food because he wouldn't eat. But he would just stay there and play RuneScape, and he's like, man, I'm getting betrayed by my friend. Like, you're a jabroni, you suck. You're getting beat up. But yeah, I mean, there was stuff to do online back then. Not as sophisticated as now, but
no, now it's there's too much to do now.
Yes.
You kind of sit there for a long time thinking about what should I do today because there's too much to choose from.
Yes, there's a lot.
Well, since we're kind of on that little trend, especially when you mentioned RuneScape, now I know you have your website where it's kind of like a middle ground, I would say, because you put yourself out there about asking you people can talk to you about financial and like insurance and stuff.
Right.
But what's the nerdy stuff about exactly?
The
If you
nerdy
wanna
stuff.
explain that.
So, man, this is a kind of a story.
Okay,
guess
that's
I gotta
fine.
go back.
That's fine.
Man, so I got into stuff like, well, I mean, like I told you, I really love fighting games, and I've always wanted to do something in the fighting game realm. So in high school and like early college, I would do like Smash Brothers tournaments where I'd just get friends together, get a bunch of TVs, get a bunch of N64s or GameCubes, and just we would play Smash. And then I also got into card games, so I would play every card game under the sun: Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, Imagination.
Did you keep any of those cards?
Everything. I got the foil ones. So,
Okay.
in
So
a
it's
book.
like nowadays, man,
Yeah, I would hope that they're worth something, but
cards are crazy nowadays.
yes. So anyway, I got really into card games, and a couple friends of mine and I would, like, I remember one day I was leaving the card store, and two of my friends were talking about something, and I was like, this isn't a game I'm familiar with. I was like, what are you guys talking about? It's like, oh, he made a game. I was like, he made a game? What do you mean he made a game? He's like, yeah, I just made the rules, and I just made a game. That night, I went home and I didn't sleep. I was like, I'm gonna make a game.
Oh, so basically, what you're saying is your mind was blown.
My mind was blown. Yes, to put it as what the kids say. Is that what's hot in the streets right now?
Mind is blown. I don't know. That might date me. I don't know. That might put some age on me. Mind is blown, but yeah.
Yes, my mind was blown, and so I went home all night. I was on my little crappy computer on Paint, MS Paint, and I made a card game, and then so a bunch of us just did that. We made our own games because we were like,
So what was your card game? Now I gotta ask. I'm curious.
Now it's on my site. Actually, they're all on my site. So
okay.
I mean, it was just a bunch of stuff that I was into at the time. The first one was a Legend of Zelda based card game. You ever played Zelda?
I have played Zelda. Yeah.
What's your favorite Zelda though?
Oh, I couldn't tell you honestly. I played Zelda, but I definitely wasn't into it to where like I had to play it every day.
I gotcha.
So yeah, I definitely wouldn't know.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah. So I would make a game. A couple other friends of mine made a game, and then we would just teach people our games, and then try to run tournaments. And it was a lot of fun. So we did that, and then eventually we just stopped. People got busy, families, work, stuff like that. And one day, a couple friends of mine and I were talking on the phone, and we're just like, man, do you remember such and such? And when we were just sharing war stories, basically. And I was like, yeah, I actually still have all the images. Like, I still kept everything, like in a file somewhere, yeah. And my friend was like, you should put that online so that we could, if we wanted to look at the cards or play again, then we would have a spot where they were all there. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So then I put all the card stuff there. So if anyone wanted to look at them or whatever. And then my friend was also saying, Fitz, you have a really good eye for design. So if you ever wanted to apply for a job in that, you would have all your work there. So you can just say, look at this. You can just give them the website, and then they would be able to look at it. So all the rules and all the cards and all that stuff are on them. So that's the major reason why I did that.
Okay, and this is like a downloadable thing? Or
yeah, you can just download it and print them out and play. I mean, they're all really flawed. Like, they're all not very good.
It's okay.
But we just wanted a spot where we could all go and have everything there.
I think some of the best games come out of that, like something like that. And like you said flawed. Like
yeah.
I mean, I remember when, I mean, it's a big thing now, but I just remember as a kid, like when Dungeons and Dragons
Dungeons and Dragons
came out, and
yeah.
like, yeah, it was weird for a lot of people, right? It was, you know, but now it's that like culture really, and that game in particular, like now it's like it's huge
really
nowadays.
big, really big.
So I think a lot of people who are into card games and things like that would gravitate towards something of your nature that you made, mainly because a lot of the big card companies don't really have something like quite like that.
Right. Right.
Besides outside of Dungeons and Dragons, really.
Right.
That's probably the biggest one I think that I can think of.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest one. But yeah, that's really all that was here for. Basically, just to reminisce, and if I ever wanted to dip my toe into that field, then kind of all my stuff would be there.
I mean, this is I would say those card games would be your toy store right there.
Yeah, that's a good.
If you think about it, like
very full circle.
It sounds cheesy to say that, but like that's your toy store. Right?
Yeah,
like you never know.
It's a good way to put it.
But I mean, shoot, what's that one card game that like kind of came out the same way? Cards Against Humanity.
Oh,
that was the weirdest game.
Cards Against
Humanity. No one knew what it was when it first came out. Now it's like it's huge.
But, yeah, I love a good Cards Against Humanity game.
Yeah. I think everyone does now. But I remember when everyone first saw it, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, like whatever." It was weird, and there wasn't as many cards I think that there is now. But yeah,
right. But like with everything, I think it's less about what you're doing and more about who you're doing it with. So you get a
why you're doing it. I also think
why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Well, because playing Cards Against Humanity, like if I'm with a group I don't really like, then it can be a boring game. But if it's with my people, then
that's fair. So like strangers, you wouldn't want to play a game against.
Depending on the stranger. So yeah.
I get you. No, that makes sense. Yeah, weirdly board games can be funny and erotic at the same time. I mean, for us growing up, game wise, if it was a board game or a card game, it might be every family really, but it was Monopoly for us. But it was always bad.
I was gonna say, when you played, how did you win Monopoly? How do you win that game?
Oh man, so you definitely don't want Boardwalk or Park Place. It only works out in your benefit if someone's really unlucky that game. Like they always get that weird roll that puts them on it.
No, I don't mean the path to victory. Like, what are the rules? Like, how do you win in Monopoly? Do you remember? Was it to own everything? Was it to bankrupt everyone? Because everyone I know has different rules. They all play differently. Like,
there's what you call like house rules.
Rules. Yeah.
I think in the rule book, like in the very back, if I remember reading this, and I played Monopoly like a month ago with my family as well. I think it's the only reason it's fresh in my memory was I think at the very end of it, like a little paragraph said, and then if you have house rules, whatever. Like, dude, and this was like in the Monopoly rulebook. Like, if you have house rules, go for it.
Because I don't think in the rulebook there's a definite way to win. Like, does it say you win when this happens?
The way to win is if I remember right in the rules, it's basically you have to bankrupt everyone out, and it happens. Like, but it takes.
It takes forever, but
I've played a lot of people.
I've played with people where it's not when you bankrupt everyone. If you're still in it, you're just in debt. But it's when you own everything and have a monopoly.
Well, so you want to own as much as possible
because it helps you, right?
Yeah, then you'll be making like the most money on the board. But okay, so here's another rule that like people probably don't know is. So you have to own all three colors or all colors of a piece of land to build houses on it and hotels.
Is that how it worked?
Okay. Yeah, okay, but see, and we only went over this recently because we had a family member who wanted to like build stuff on like one piece of property he owned, and we were like, no, you can't do that because I have the other color. I have the other card that it matches your color, like blue, red, whatever. So
you couldn't build a house or a hotel?
No,
or
nothing.
Nothing.
You could just get the rent for the land.
Okay, I gotcha.
and a lot of people are probably losing their minds right now listening to this.
That's not how you play Monopoly.
But yeah, if you own, like, say, let's go with like the blue squares, I guess, on that one. Like if you owned both, like in Boardwalk and Park Place, then you could build on it. But if you only owned one, and say the bank had it still, or another player had the other card, you couldn't build. You know? So at that point, now I guess if anything, negotiating has to take place because now you're trying to negotiate.
You can buy
with the player, like I'll buy it from you, or I'll trade you a property, or whatever.
Or I'll smack you upside the head.
Something like that.
This.
But see, the debt thing, I never understood because like we had a cousin who was really bad at that game. She was the opposite. She didn't want to buy anything, so she was like the money saver of the game.
Okay.
She just wanted to save.
She just collect $200. That's it.
Yeah, she just wanted to save her money, but. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, so the bad thing about that though is you're not really building any more money besides the pass and go part.
Right.
And once everyone else starts building and buying, like at some point you're gonna owe rent, right? So she was like the saver. She wanted to save her money, which was weird because in the end, once she would like basically lose all of it.
Okay.
Our family, for some reason, just would like get a piece of paper and start writing like, oh, she owes this much. So every time she passed go, she'd like start distributing the $200. So she was like never out of the game. But it's like in reality, she was really out of the game. Like So the debt thing was always weird. We needed to stop that once we got into it.
Yeah, well, I played with a couple people where you're just negative, so you got to pay it back, or if you go negative, you go to jail. And then you have to roll to get out of jail?
I don't know if that's a rule.
I don't know if that's a rule either, but okay, you're indicating that it's not a rule.
I don't think that's a rule.
Yeah, so then how did you go to jail? You just flip the card? Go to jail?
No.
Because I think if you...
So you can get the card that says go to jail.
Right.
Or you could land on the spot that says go to jail.
There is a go to jail space, yeah.
I think that's really the only way. Because the other one is the just visiting part of the jail piece.
Right. If you just land on the jail, that doesn't mean you're in jail.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the only way you can go to jail.
I remember playing with someone and they're like, well, you owe me this amount of money and you don't got it, so you go to jail.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't remember,
this is not a rule. And it's like, you're in my house.
See, that's a house rule.
Yeah.
For sure. I think, and the only way to get out of jail was...
I think you had to roll like 2 6s, or...
You had to roll doubles, like...
doubles.
Like a 2 and a 2, a 4 and a 4.
Okay.
But if you couldn't do it in 3 turns, which I don't know if 3 turns is a house rule or not.
They just let you out?
Yeah. If you did it within one of those 3 turns, then you got out for free. Okay. But if you didn't do it after the 3 turns, you had to pay $50 to get out.
Oh, okay.
And that would just go to the... Okay. Since we're talking,
okay.
I can't believe we're going into depth on Monopoly, but it's okay. Because this happened recently. The free parking spot.
Okay.
All right, here we go. The free parking spot. In the rule books, it's just a spot. You don't get anything for landing on that.
Right.
Okay. But in our house, the way we always played is like when you had fines and like jail fines and fees, you'd put that money in the middle of the board, and whoever landed on free parking got all that money in the middle of the board.
What?
See, he's raising a hand.
Rick,
but
this isn't a rule, you guys.
No, it's not. It's not a rule. In the rule book, that spot's just a spot.
It's just a spot.
Yeah, it's just a free spot, pretty much.
I can park.
You don't get any money for landing in that spot, but for some reason, across America,
made
the
a
world,
bonus.
like everyone I've ever played with, no, you get the money in the middle of the board.
So hold on a second, one more time. How did the money get in the middle?
So the money got into the middle of the board because, like, say you picked up a card that said you owe like taxes on a house, or you landed, I think, on the income tax piece on the board and maybe a luxury tax, I think. So all those taxes, instead of going to the bank, instead of going to the bank where it probably should have gone.
Yeah, right. It goes into a pot.
That's how economy works. You put it back in the bank, but no, we would put it in the middle of the board.
That's funny.
And sometimes that's what saved a person though, because they would have like no money left They'd have like one roll to like survive, right? And they'd get free parking. And free parking, if there was a lot of fees paid throughout that game, it could be worth thousands.
I was gonna say they should have a. Is there a you win the lotto thing in Monopoly? That's a card. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but it's
okay. Never mind.
It's not very much money though. Compared, you imagine?
Win the lotto.
I mean, I guess you could play. One sec. I'll get to it. I guess you could play the millionaire version of Monopoly now.
Right.
Which there's so many different versions, but now they have the millionaire one where I think the smallest bill is $1 million. I don't remember.
Okay.
And it goes up from there. So you have like a $20 million bill for no reason.
That's stupid.
But I mean, and it's still the same. You can still go broke in a matter of minutes.
Right. But it's funny you mentioned the thing about the $50 to get out of jail, because I played with another family that was like, you can either stay until you roll a double or you can make bail. I was like, who determines bail?
Yeah.
So everyone has their own rules.
Yeah, they do. It's wild. That's why sometimes our family can't play Monopoly, just because everyone gets upset about everything.
Flip the table.
Yeah, which is probably across the world. Everyone gets upset with Monopoly.
I mean, I've never seen a game finish. I've never seen someone win. We've always given up.
I've done it twice in my entire life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you do it? By everyone else going bankrupt?
Yeah, and mainly, you know why really the game ended was because we followed the rules. We followed the rules. Like, we didn't make up all this crap. Like, there was no money in free parking anymore. We paid all the fees to the bank. If you were in debt, you had to sell houses, sell hotels, mortgage your land, then try to get it back. Like, oh yeah. And then if you bankrupt a person, all their land, like money, if they have any, to like cover if they don't have enough money to pay like all the fees they owe you, that it just goes to that person or the bank.
Okay. Well, I mean, but they could just sell that stuff to whoever,
but
right?
if you owe too much money,
it doesn't matter.
There's not. Yeah, it don't matter. I mean, I think you pay like $100 for a hotel, you get like $25 back when you sell it back to the bank.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't get
That's
much money
terrible.
back. Yeah, you don't get much money back.
Oh man.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
Okay, well, I think this is a pretty good way to end it. So, Monopoly. So the last question I have for you.
Yes.
Is everyone has their own answer, but what does success look like for you? What does it mean to you?
Success. I guess to me, success would be being happy, having some money in the bank, and not having debt. I guess would be success. As long as you have family and friends and you're mentally in a good spot. And I think the no debt contributes to that, then I would say you're successful.
All right, I like it. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
Man, go watch Creed 3. Creed 3 was pretty cool. And and don't get beat up, you guys. Just mentally, don't get beat up. Physically, don't get beat up. Don't get beat up out there.
All right, guys, you heard it. Don't get beat up. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode with Fitzroy House. Remember that last name, right? Okay. Thank you for tuning in, and remember that life is an adventure, so live it on your terms, right? Next time. All right, we good?
Okay,
all right.
hold on. So
You got something to
Monopoly, we grew up monopolying, and we have stupid rules too.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the mind-blowing one for me.
Okay.
Okay, the real rule